Good evening. This is Left, Right and Centre. I'm Nidhi Razdan. Tonight, Pakistan blatantly denies any link to the terrorist arrested in Jammu and Kashmir. The Prime Minister and the Ministry of External Affairs silent. Can India afford to go ahead with the talks between the NSAs later this month? Can talks and terror go together? Also later in the show, with no signs of an end to the stalemate and virtually no communication, is there a complete breakdown between the government and the opposition? And is it the onus on the government to repair it? That's something we'll talk about in just a few minutes from now. But first, Pakistan today denied any link with the terrorist captured alive in Jammu and Kashmir yesterday, saying that Naved was not a Pakistani national and demanded proof from India. In Udhampur itself, the site where the two BSF Jawans were killed, more details are now emerging of how Naved and his accomplice carried out the attack. My colleague Vishnu Shom spoke to the injured BSF Jawans who are recovering in hospital.
आप बस के कहाँ थे जब ये हमला हुआ था?
मैं ड्राइविंग कर रहा था।
आप ड्राइविंग कर रहे थे और बताइए क्या हुआ था? आपके सामने आके हमला?
सामने आके 3-4 ट्रक लगे हुए थे, वो जम्मू की तरफ
जी
आने थे वो
जी।
तो वो जम्मू की तरफ आने थे तो पीछे ऊपर जो थी मक्की थी खेत में, तो जैसे ही गाड़ी का गैप टर्न में मिला, कोई 50 गज का गैप मिल गया उनको
जी।
जगदम वो ट्रक से पीछे से निकलने के बाद उन्होंने भ्रष्ट बोला, गाली देने लगे, बोला छोड़ेंगे नहीं आज, कोई जिंदा है इसमें। कोई 15-20 मिनट वो फायरिंग करते रहे।
पहले उन्होंने क्या किया, फर्स्टली उन्होंने अटैक किया बस के टायर के ऊपर। पहले उन्होंने कंडक्टर साइड टायर फाड़ा, उसके बाद में क्या किया, ड्राइवर पर फायर किया, फिर अंधाधुंध फायरिंग शुरू कर दिया बस के ऊपर। तो जो जहाँ था वहीं उन्होंने पोजीशन ले लिया। तो किसी गार्ड वाले ने एक अच्छा काम किया कि वो मरते मरते भी एक को मार दिया उसने, नहीं तो कोई बचना नहीं था।
जो है
हाँ, जो रोके उसने एक को मार दिया उसने।
रॉकी के बारे में कुछ बताएंगे आप? उनको पहचान?
क्यों, हम उनको थोड़ी देर की मुलाकात हम उनको जान नहीं पाए कि वो तो
पर आपने देखा वो फायरिंग कर रहे थे?
फायरिंग किया, उसी ने मारा, नहीं तो क्या एक भी नहीं बचना था।
कितने ग्रेनेड फेंके थे?
8-10
ग्रेनेड। अच्छा, पर कोई वो बस के अंदर नहीं आ पाया?
अंदर बस लोग थी सर, बस को पहले लोग बस चलते लोग करके चलते हैं तो बस तो लोग थी। और फिर वो एक मरने से थोड़ा फर्क पड़ गया, एक नहीं मरता तो उनका थोड़ा हौसला कम होगा ना, एक मरने।
Well, those BSF Jawans really truly brave. 2 of them lost their lives and were remembered today by the state and by security forces. The question though now is, as we look ahead, about whether India can afford to continue these talks between the national security advisors that are scheduled to take place later this month, whether that would really achieve anything. Joining us here in the studio, Swapan Das Gupta. General VP Malik is joining us tonight from Chandigarh. Also with us, Siddharth Nath Singh, spokesperson of the BJP, Madhu Gauriaski, the spokesperson of the Congress party, and Kamal Sibal, former foreign secretary, joining us as well tonight. Mr. Sibal, let me take this to you first. Given the events that we have seen, sir, of the last 10 days or so between Gurdaspur, between this attack in Udhampur now, do you think it is feasible for India to go ahead with these talks later this month? Because the sense I'm getting from the government is that there is, I think, a certain wariness that if any other incident happens after this, it would be very politically difficult to justify this talk.
See, the government has to weigh 2 considerations. One is that at UFA, Prime Minister Modi and Nawaz Sharif agreed to the NSA meeting, as well as those of DGMOs and others. And on the other hand, there has been these terrorist attacks. So the question is whether the UFA agreement now should be jettisoned and the talk should be called off. Now, if that were to happen, it would mean that the government was rather too precipitate in suggesting these talks and did not take fully into account the possibility of terrorist attacks and opening them, therefore, to accusations that they are following the same policy as before of continuing dialogue despite terror, and in other words, delinking dialogue from terror. On the other hand, some may argue that this is now a good occasion to confront Pakistan with their involvement in terrorism and put them on the defensive. Now, the only difficulty I have with this thinking and this line of argument is that we resumed dialogue after the Mumbai attacks. And in Mumbai attacks, the Pakistani complicity was all too clear. So confronting Pakistan with their terrorist affiliations and all the mischief making that they do, and hoping that they would either change their ways or methods or change their tactics of deniability and begin cooperating with us and controlling these forces, this
so
will
you're
not
saying
happen.
That's a bit pointless.
So I don't think confronting Sartaj Aziz with this and hoping that this will din some sense into him and the Pakistani establishment, to my mind, is an unrealistic proposition. So on balance, I think there is no purpose in holding these talks now, and they should be postponed until such time there is better atmosphere and we can probe deeper into Pakistani intentions.
Well, the interesting thing is that at the moment India has proposed these dates of the 23rd and 24th of August, and there has been no response from the Pakistani side just yet. So they seem to be playing hard to get in all of this. General Malik, your thoughts on this, sir, tonight, as you've seen these events unfold. Do you agree with Mr. Sibal that it would be better to postpone these talks? Because from the government of India's point of view, the fact is that the talks have a very specific mandate, and that is to focus on terrorism, and therefore would it not be appropriate then, in a sense, to allow the two NSAs to meet?
See, Nidhi, I find that Pakistan and India both have followed consistent policies. Pakistan has followed the policy of talking as well as carrying on cross-border terrorism, and that has been going on for 25 years now. We've had many ups and downs, but this policy that they have followed has been consistent, and it is continues to be followed. As far as India is concerned, it has always been talking, and we have had some ups and downs in the talks, but the fact is that we have continued to talk despite the terrorism that has been going on against us. I think it's high time that we reworked our policy and not only talk, but I think we also need to make it clear through other means that, look, if you can follow a dual policy of talking and cross-border terrorism, we can also do something similar. Because this policy that we have followed for last 25 years, I feel, is more based on idealism, sentiments, and it is not based on ground realities. I think we need to face the ground realities which have not changed for the last 25 years now. And therefore,
but so when you say use other
means,
so when you say use other means,
as I said, talking.
But when you say that India should use other means, that's
yes,
actually,
I mean,
what do you mean by that exactly? Because that could really escalate things as well.
Look, I'm not a warmonger. I've seen enough of war, but what I am trying to tell you is that yes, there are overt and covert means, and if they can indulge in these things under a certain threshold, perhaps sometime we can also do that. I'm not a warmonger. I don't want the war to escalate, situation to escalate into a war, but that is what they have been doing for so long. And I'm sure that we can also do something similar so that it pinches them sometimes.
Well, it's interesting what you say, and before I bring the political panel into it, Swapan Das Gupta, your thoughts, particularly on what General Malik is just saying, about whether India can give it back in something that is covert.
Well, I think General Malik is articulating a great deal of public opinion in this matter, which suggests that just as Pakistan inflicts pain on us, we should be in a position to also inflict some pain on Pakistan. Otherwise, they will not come to their senses. Now, I think, however, that would be a policy which would be singularly unstated. If something is covert, I don't think it will be acknowledged ever in part of it. I think there is, at present, as conditions stand, whether Mr. Doval and Mr. Sartaj Aziz meet or don't meet, I think the outcome is likely to be exactly the same. I think they will be talking at each other rather than talking to each other. So, in a sense, it's already predetermined that these talks are going to be completely useless and will lack any outcome. Now, the question really is, and this is one of those more touchy issues, because we've always been afraid of internationalizing Pakistani-Indian relationships. But at present, I think Pakistan has got a certain degree of respite from pressures which have been hitherto earlier mounted on them by the West, particularly the United States and the United Kingdom, in relation to Afghanistan. And I think there is a degree of comfort which they see, particularly in the context of the withdrawal of troops. And I think they're using that comfort level which they've achieved
ratchet
there
up tensions,
as
yeah.
the sort of
Yeah.
window of opportunity to be able to do anything. And there is finally the always that hoary issue about the conflict between the civilian and military, and the suggestions as to whether Nawaz Sharif sort of overplayed his hand in signing that agreement in UFA and is now paying
But
the price.
do you,
but
do
that is
we
the
look
problem.
over eager to talk to them?
No,
then?
I
I'm
think
asking you
the
that.
point is we don't have the capacity, the ability or anything to be able to influence Pakistan's internal politics.
So why are we talking
So I
about
don't think that really should be a factor in our calculations at all.
So why are we
Pakistan
talking?
has to make up its
So
mind.
what's the point of if as you say, it's predetermined?
I'm
that these
so
two-
glad
Yeah.
that if even person like you today
I'm asking that
is,
genuinely.
is asking in a suggestive sort of way why talk, because these certain issues were not these questions were not asked in that same tone when the Indian government broke off talks with Pakistan over the Hurriyat invitation issue, etc. And I think we are getting to a stage where public opinion would demand that, have as little relationship with Pakistan as possible at a formal level, allow it to stew, and for the moment just shore up our own defenses and our capabilities.
Let me just get the BJP and the Congress into this, and before we do that, I just want to state you'll be seeing some flashes on our screen as we speak, where the Hindustan Times has done an interview, in fact, with the man who is the father of the terrorist arrested in Udhampur yesterday. He's a Pakistani man and he has admitted that he is what he called himself the unfortunate father of Naved. That number actually obtained by the Hindustan Times through the intelligence agencies who've been interrogating this man. His father telling the Hindustan Times that I will be killed, the Lashkar and the army are after us, we will all be killed, I am the unfortunate father, they probably wanted him dead and didn't want him to be captured alive. So that really is quite something in terms of evidence. If you remember, similarly in the way that when Ajmal Kasab was caught, it was actually the Pakistani media that went back and traced his family there, and here now the Hindustan Times has done the same. Siddharth Singh, my question to you is this, that the Gurdaspur attack happened and now this attack has happened, and strangely the Ministry of External Affairs has remained silent on this. The Prime Minister has tweeted on many things over the past few days, but he hasn't said anything on Gurdaspur. He hasn't said anything personally on the death of these BSF Jawans and this attack either. And my sense is that the government is very keen to not sabotage, at least give this process with the NSAs one chance and not sabotage that. Does it look though that we are a little over eager to please the Pakistanis at this point, not step over any toes? Why doesn't the government even, lodge a protest with Pakistan is what I'm asking, Siddharth.
Well, Nidhi, I don't agree that perhaps you may have missed, but definitely the Prime Minister did tweet regarding the BSF Jawans. But now coming on the issue,
no, he hasn't.
Which is the topic of your debate today. Sorry?
He's not.
No, he hasn't said anything on the BSF
I got an
Jawans.
echo problem,
statement
but
by
anyway,
Rajnath
I'll
Singh.
continue
No,
if you allow me.
but normally the Prime Minister does tweet, and he's tweeted on
can I
Hiroshima
complete
and
my-
all of that today. So I'm just saying, is that
Nid-
because they want to give
well,
this NSA dialogue a chance?
Neither on the Gurdaspur nor
Yeah.
on this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Siddharth, go ahead.
Well, Nidhi, I think the Prime Minister and the government is clear what they are doing. And may I request, I have got an echo which you can correct it after I have completed, and do not interrupt because I won't be able to then talk to you. As far as when India knew from day one that once the Afghanistan, the US pressure is going to decrease, they will move out, the pressure on the Indian borders will increase. And to underestimate the capacity of the Indian government, that they were not aware, or the intelligence is not with the government of India, and without that intelligence they entered into the UFA agreement, I think it will be quite naive. Therefore, when we look at the UFA agreement, and it is an important step forward, we we are in discussions with Pakistan, which is certainly not a composite dialogue or a sort of a bilateral talk. It is basically at the NSA level and DGMO level, which has been stated in the UFA agreement, which focuses primarily on terrorism, and J and K, or the K word, is not mentioned there. Now, to miss that opportunity and get out of it, that we will not talk, because the Pakistan, ISI and the military are acting, which they will continue acting, whether we talk or we do not talk. We need to engage, but the engagement is on a subject. It is not on a wider subject, which is basically terrorism. At the same time, the Indian Defence Minister, the Finance, the Home Minister, and everybody has made it quite clear that the response from the Government of India or the Indian Defence Forces will be quite adequate, and it will be more than what the Pakistan is unleashing across the border on India. So I think the policy is very, very clear. We are going to engage with Pakistan on terrorism by talking with the civilian government, but at the same time, India is going to be very focused across the border, and the response will be more than adequate.
So, Mr. Yaski, the point is, the government's point is, the talks have a very specific focus, and that is terror. The focus is terrorism, and perhaps there is no time like the present then for Ajit Doval to confront Sartaj Aziz with whatever evidence India has. What's wrong with that?
No, my question, not the wrong. My problem with the government, what the people of India is looking at is the stated statement of Prime Minister Modi, धमाकों के साये में वार्तालाप नहीं. Now over 800 violations of ceasefire violations at the border. In August month itself, over 11 violations, and 7 or 8 Jawans have been killed, and over 11 civilians have been killed. What we are looking at Prime Minister Modi is either he is soft on the terror, or he is unable to contain the terror in a fashionable manner where it is accepted and seen the terror is stopped there. Honorable Prime Minister's no statement, neither in the Parliament nor to the people, neither he tweeted on this Gurdaspur incident or Udhampur incident. India has not resisted a strong protest in spite of having a strong evidence and provocations from gross provocations from Pakistan at the border. There is so many incidents of ISIS flags and Pakistan flags have been floating in Srinagar. The BJP government is doing nothing there. There is incidents in Punjab, Pakistan border. The BJP government there doing nothing there. So what people of India looking at is the Prime Minister is so keen on tweeting on everything, on taking selfies. Yes, I love taking selfies, but we will request the Prime Minister, please speak to the nation. What is that you understanding you reached with the Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif at UFA? What is the steps you are going to take contain this terror? If you look at the statement of Tariq Khosa confessing that the Pakistan was behind the 26/11 attack, the Pakistan government is planned.
I just want to take up the couple of points that you raised, though.
Who stated that I will look at Pakistan with my red eyes. I will not tolerate any attack by the Pakistan.